Welcome back to another year of the Super Centex podcast. With me, as always, Chad Conine, DJ Ramirez. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. I feel like we've climbed the mountain of August. I sent in my last preview cap yesterday. I'm currently working on high school football nomination blurbs, so
High school
there's
football.
a sense of okay, we're ready now.
Yeah. DJ's running her last. I mean, this is the last day of our preview stuff, and she's got the caboose with the China Spring feature.
Yeah, I'm just checking off all my boxes before game day tomorrow. So
China Spring
almost there, guys.
China Spring is the last feature.
Wchina Spring is the last feature.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Who's the last cap?
The last capsule, they were all 6-man. Jonesboro, which you
that
did.
Was mine, yeah.
And a couple others. Maybe, is it Bynum, Mount Calm? I don't know.
Yeah, I did those yesterday.
Yeah, good. So we're rolling. Yeah, August can sometimes feel like a little bit of a death march. I mean, like it has 45, 50 days in it or something.
Long and hot, and there's always something to do.
Yeah, it can be. There was some days last week it was just brutally hot. But as DJ noted, tomorrow we will have football games to watch, and that's a very good thing.
Wait a minute, now I don't quite know the whole schedule. I'm assuming DJ is going to cover the Winter's Blizzard Frost Polar Bear.
No,
game.
she's I assigned her to the. She's not at the Ice Bowl. I assigned her to the very exciting Centex Outlaws Bishop Riker game.
Okay.
You had way more to say on that, and you censored yourself.
Hey, it's 2024. I'm being nice, baby.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Well, I already did give DJ a hard time for her picks a minute ago before we went on the air, so to speak. So
yeah, true that.
I don't know. It could go both ways. This nice, declaration.
Yeah. So clearly, tomorrow and Friday, we're not going to learn everything we, are going to learn about these teams. We're not going to figure it all out in one weekend. But what questions do you guys personally have that you feel like you might start getting some answers for this week? DJ?
Oh, man. I guess just establishing, like who's going to be the playmakers, some of those questions of like, oh, well, is this team, going to be as good as we think it's going to be? Do they have some stuff to work out? There's a lot of
there's no Cash McCollum, Braylon Henry, or Micah Hudson around anymore, right?
Yeah, like who's stepping in, who's stepping up. I was just telling Brice yesterday when I went to talk to China Spring guys, like those were some of the best interviews that I've had in a while. So like I'm honestly a little excited to see what these guys have got, how they're gonna play. And then I don't know, just like that district is gonna be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And we've got some other like Waco teams playing Waco teams, China Spring University a few weeks down the line. West is at Robinson this weekend, Whitney's at Mart. And so it's just, it feels like a good first week of like establishing some new norms and some like, new legacies, so to say.
I like it. Chad?
Well, I got my first good analogy of the season ready to roll.
We'll determine if it's good or not, but go on.
I mean, it's a pretty good one. But so like college football preseason, they're like the ubiquitous movie previews that, the trailers that you see all the time that you just get tired of seeing, and you're pretty sure it's not going to be a very good movie, but they just put all the good parts in the trailer,
And you feel like you've seen the movie when you see it.
Yeah. Because of all the preseason coverage, no matter what team you follow, you get like daily updates and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like high school football is like an indie film where you don't really know what it's about until you go see it, right?
Okay.
So I don't really know what the Lorena Leopards are about this year. I don't know what the China Spring Cougars are about this year, So You got to go see the Midway Panthers. You got to go see the movie to find out what the plot is actually going to be.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's always a fair amount of turnover with any high school
Mm-hmm.
program.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a team has a whole lot of starters back, but
Mm-hmm.
in the case of China Spring and part of what DJ's writing about, um, they graduated a lot of dudes, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of dudes that had
Mm-hmm.
been through some long, long playoff runs. And so they've got a lot of new guys. And, I think, Chad, you mentioned the other day, you'll be interested to see, who starts at quarterback for Lorena, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just, I'll be interested. We mentioned Midway. I mean, I've gotten a little bit of reports from Midway in terms of people who've seen their scrimmage against Lake Travis,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Cash Pullen is taking over at quarterback there. Obviously has big shoes to fill with Ty Brown leaving, but what I heard was against a very, very good Lake Travis team, Midway looked okay. You know,
I
uh,
saw a little clip of Landry Bowden, I think a tight end, making a catch for the Panthers. I think he switched sides from defense to offense and
nice.
made a kind of an acrobatic catch in the scrimmage, maybe.
Yeah, y'all are right. I mean, this will be a good chance for us to start figuring some things out. I'll be very interested on Friday night, late Friday night, when we do our After Dark podcast, to get everybody's, thoughts and opinions on what they saw. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there are some enticing matchups, as you guys alluded to, in week one, including the game DJ will cover, Franklin and China Spring. I'm not wearing powder blue on purpose, but it is fitting, I guess.
You just look good in powder blue,
Well, thank
Brice. So
you.
you should wear
Look,
it.
Houston Oilers, baby. Uh, the Lions and the Cougars both were going for three-peats last year, and they had those quests denied. China Spring dropped out in the second round to Anna, very good Anna team. Uh, Cougars finished 8-4. And then Franklin made it all the way to Jerry World again, but lost to Malakoff. And we talked a lot about Malakoff, even though they weren't in our area last year, but very, very good. That was a 14-7 game. So these teams are in different classifications, of course, but who is better equipped? It's basically who you picking. Who's going to get to 1-0?
Well,
I went with. Go ahead, DJ. No.
I'm covering the game, so I had to
Mm-hmm.
pick China Spring.
That's a good point.
Oh,
That's a good point. When in doubt, go with the home team if you're covering that game.
Yeah, like we said, we don't have a lot of answers in terms of, who this team is yet, but that doesn't mean that we don't know a lot about, who they used to be and how they're used to building off of who they used to be. And they still do have a lot of, guys back from last season, that because last year their defense was pretty young, their linemen were pretty young, and so they had to go through and get some of that experience. And obviously Matthew Battles, who's the starting quarterback now, he's gotten some snaps. He's played wide receiver. They have Dean Hanna back, who was basically a bulldozer for them on both sides of the ball. And Travis Borland, who's a captain on the defense, who was hurt last year, is coming back and learning how to be a leader. And I talked to those guys yesterday, and so I feel like China Springs just got a little bit of the edge in terms of like they kind of have been here before in this sort of like they don't have to rebuild, they're just kind of restocking. And Franklin, I mean, they're gonna be tough. They still have a lot of their big players from last year, right? But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of giving China Spring the edge in this game.
I have two thoughts on the Franklin Lions. One is if we were to draft programs into our coverage area, like programs like, yeah, we could cover them and maybe get some
they're right on the
Redbreast and they're
fringe.
interesting. Yeah, I think like our top three prospects would be Franklin, Malakoff, and Glen Rose, right? Because all really good teams, not real small schools, kind of pretty good sized schools.
To
So
that
that's
point,
and yeah,
we did actually used to consider Franklin an area.
right, exactly. And my second thought on Franklin is that they are they're such a style machine, like they run the slot T, right? If I'm correct in that terminology in offense. And so, it's a good system to know what you're supposed to do from the 7th grade through the 12th grade. And I think that gives them to me, that gives them an advantage in a situation where both schools are starting a new year and starting to try to get back to where they were a year ago. So I'm going to pick Franklin. But, when you talk about reloading and to China Springs' benefit, when you talk about reloading and you talk about what I just talked about, kind of building from your middle school on, I think China Spring has done a good job of that. And I think they're probably a team where the kids that are now seniors and juniors and maybe even sophomores are ones that we don't know about, but have been chomping at the bit for a while to get into the spot of being the new star at China Spring. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next few weeks. Names pop up that we weren't that familiar with before, but we better get familiar with them quick.
I think that's something.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think it's something that we might see over the next few years, because when I was talking to Tyler Beatty over the summer, he was like, we've got around 200 kids coming out to practice and work out, from the junior high level up into, high school. And so, they might have dropped down to Division II, but they're still a pretty big program.
Yeah, they've got it going well. I mean, the fact of the matter is these two programs, Franklin's played 48 games in the last 3 years. China Springs played 44. Those extra games, those coaches always talk about it, the extra reps they get. Even those guys that didn't get a lot of playing time were at least getting reps in practice. And so I do feel like, those China Spring guys might be able to slide up and slide in and figure it out on Friday night. But I do get what you're saying too, Chad. I think one of the reasons Franklin is successful is because they run an offense that's so different from what 90% of the schools out there are running. And, so these teams are not always well equipped to stop that offense.
Well, and they've been good for a long time too. And I bet they have better numbers in their program than 99% of the teams in their classification.
Sure, yeah. Should be a fun game for sure. What other week 1 games really intrigue you?
I'm excited about the one I'm going to. I'm going to the Whitney Mart game, and as I did last year, I'll be doing photo and video. And I've been told by Rod Adelot I better get a shot of the Mart run through sign, because when it comes to our community shots and our different stuff like that, the Mart run through sign is a staple. So
yep. They're one of the few schools that still does.
They still do a
paper run through sign, yeah.
And not to be left out of like the whole thing, they do the run through sign at the beginning of the game, and then they've got a tunnel for halftime. So they're going to do things to the nth degree.
Best of both worlds.
And then kind of on the same subject that we talked about, in question 1. The Lorena Austin Regents game, the Connolly Academy game, the Gatesville Taylor game. All of those will be interesting to see how those teams come out of the blocks and who's, kind of turning the wheels for them.
DJ?
Oh man, I mean, like Chad said, that Whitney Mart game should be really good. I actually just talked to both those coaches earlier today, and they're excited to get to challenge themselves, from week 1 and really establish, what they want to be. Obviously, Whitney's a little bit bigger, higher classification, more players. But I mean, Mart is Mart, like we always say. And, DeMontrell Medlock is a heck of a quarterback. So like it's hard. I had a hard time picking this game, and the only reason I picked Whitney was because Chad picked Mart. So I hope Mart doesn't hold it against me. that
Hey, you don't have to go out there,
I
I
don't
mean,
have to go out there this week. This week.
and we said it before and we'll say it many times again. Mart doesn't even like you hinting that maybe they're going to have a competitive game.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. They want you to pick them to win.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another game I'm excited about and I wish I could go to, even though it doesn't, I don't feel like it's really gonna have any bearing on the course of the season, but it's that the Universidad de Nuevo León versus Temple. If I knew that the Mexican team was gonna come play, I totally would have
Pick that game.
picked that game. But yeah, it's exciting to see the sport kind of grow past the borders, right? And I mean, football is not as big as football, soccer, in Mexico, but it's a sport that's kind of like gained popularity, and that school in particular has a lot of history. I mean, they're a program that is coming off a title and the way that it works over there, because high school sports don't work the same in Mexico as they do here. They're almost kind of non-existent. Like you have your athletic academies that you go to if you're going to play soccer and try to be a professional. But you don't really have like school teams a lot. So the way that this program works is like you have the high school players, like the, 17, 18-year olds, and then you have like a sort of college age team that's like maybe, in their 20s, like 2021. And then it's like 22, 23 is like the major team, which has been doing really well. So I feel like that should be a good game just to get, Temple tested and to get, these Mexican players kind of like accustomed to the style of play that is, the norm in Texas. And so I don't know, that's really exciting. And if I could be there, I would, but
Yeah, I had mentioned to you when we were texting at one point that it's actually not the first time that Temple has played one of these Mexico teams. Um, so I think they have a little bit of a history there, a little bit of a connection. Um, but you're right. I mean, I think there is a passion for American football in Mexico. A lot of Cowboy fans, they call them the Los Vaqueros, I guess.
yeah,
Uh, when completely different country, but when I was in Spain, as you guys know, over the summer, there for a mission trip, we one day did took the kids through American football. We did
Yeah.
an obstacle course, and they freaking loved it. And I mean,
You
it's a
know,
fun game, obviously.
the time that I've spent in Scotland and in Europe, a little bit, I've noticed that there is a taste for American football out there. I think that they just, it's hard to develop the infrastructure for American football
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it takes a lot of infrastructure compared to other games. I mean, our college teams load up an 18-wheeler and send it ahead of the team to each game. That's how much infrastructure you need, for a college football team anyway.
Yeah, no doubt. One game, you guys know I was going to mention this game.
I have it in my notes. Brice will say,
Here it is. Oglesby-Abbott. I
"That's
mean,
the
come
one."
on. We're talking about number one versus number two. Oglesby is number one in Class 1A Division 2.
Yep.
Abbott is number two in Class 1A Division 1.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to both coaches. They're excited about this one. Jeb Dixon thinks they're going to have a whole heck of a lot of people there in Oglesby. But a great test for both teams right off the bat, to challenge themselves. Um, Jeb was talking about, he could have gone out to Jayton or wherever they have these like 6-man challenges and stuff, and he was like, why do that when I could just stay home and play Abbott or play Jonesboro or somebody like that, play a really, really good team.
Mm-hmm.
So should be fun. Should be a lot of fun.
I don't. You mentioned the Texas football rankings and the overall rankings at sixmanfootball.com. Abbott's 2, Oglesby 6.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
That would be taking both divisions and putting them together.
Yeah. The Uber rankings,
The
as they
Uber
call
rankings.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's different from ranking your Uber driver after you take a ride home from the bar.
I knew you were going to say something like that. You beat me to the punch. So we do try to stay impartial here in journalism land, but let's throw that out the window for this last question. So, who is your ride or die team for 2024? And I guess you can take that however you want to take that, like the team that you think has the best chance to maybe win state from our area, or the team you just want to see do well for whatever reason. Who's your pick?
Well, last year, I kind of got on the Itasca Wampus Cat bandwagon,
You did.
and I still like them. I still love to see a program improving, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm not choosing based on the mascots and the mascot originality, but the two teams I fell in love with when I was doing my preview stuff this year was the Covington Owls and the Frost Polar Bears. Now, Covington is 6-man, only 2 teams from each district make the playoffs. They're in a 4-team district, and Covington was 4-6 last year and missed the playoffs. They hadn't made the playoffs since 1997.
Correct.
Since I was a sophomore in college. It was a long time ago. But they've got 5 starters back on both sides of the ball, and a team that went 4-6 last year, and they're thinking maybe this is the year, right? The Frost Polar Bears, they don't have quite the gap, and I mean they made the playoffs in 2019, but they've got 9 offensive, 11 defensive starters back. And everybody, I mean, when you look at the district that they play in, it seems pretty obvious. Mart, Bremond, and Chilton are the playoff big dogs, and then you got about 3 teams playing for that remaining 4th playoff spot.
Yeah, because Wortham's pretty good. Frost is pretty good.
Goldthwait, and this is my favorite stat. We didn't talk about it. We should have talked about it over the weekend, but we didn't talk. My favorite stat in that district is the top 3 teams in the district. Mart, Bremond, and Chilton have a combined 17 state championships. No. You got to throw Goldthwait in. Mart, Bremond, Chilton, and Goldthwait have a combined 17 state championships. That's an amazing number when you think. I would like to know if there are any other districts in the state that have that kind of number.
And a lot of them are this century,
Right. Yeah. And then the other 4 have 0.
Yeah.
Combined. So
I'm with you on Frost. I like Philip Gibson as a head coach. I think he's doing a good job, former Conley assistant. They've got a kid there in Mario, who just kind of is your do-it-all guy that you see a lot in 2A. And I think it'll be fun to get out and see Frost in a game this year. And certainly, you got to love the fact that they're playing the Ice Bowl tomorrow night out in Hamilton. The Frost Polar Bears and the Winters
Blizzards. Yeah.
Afterwards, they all go to Dairy Queen and get them a nice blizzard. How about you, DJ?
Oh man. I mean, obviously it's great when all our teams do well because then we've got a lot to cover. I'm really hyped about the University Trojans.
Yeah.
I mean, going out to talk to all those guys last week, I mean, I roll up and Coach Johnson is just like getting ready to go out of Pflugerville. I got to sit in his chair to do the interviews, so it's fun. I can feel the power. And then just those guys, I feel like they've grown up a lot. Like I remember talking to London Smith when he was a freshman, when we picked him for the Offensive Newcomer of the Year. And that interview just being a little stilted and, him being a freshman and still kind of learning how to communicate. And also like me learning, a little bit of how to do interviews with, high school kids. And, talking to him last week, it was probably the best interview we've had so far. No, he's definitely matured and he's grown up as a leader. And, you've got all these other guys. I talked to Michael Willis, and Joaquin Martinez and JD Bell and it's just exciting, and I'm really hyped up to see them play Belton again because I feel like that's going to be probably the district championship game. Although Brenham's got something to say, trying to throw their hat in the ring. I do
Belton's
think
replacing a lot more too, aren't they? Belton's replacing a lot more players.
Yes, they are replacing. They have a young team, but they still got some veterans here or there. But yeah, I just think compared to University, I mean, the Trojans just have so much talent, so much experience, and then so much like young talent. Like you have Savoy Nichols, who's a sophomore, who came in last year as a freshman, and played really well for a freshman, in district play. So, Cade Bynum moving to wide receiver. So I don't know, it's just like we were doing interviews, they were playing Party in the USA in the locker room, and I was like, this sounds like such a fun team. And yeah, and I'm excited. They're gonna play China Spring in week 3, so that's gonna be a great game.
They got
Yeah,
it set up.
absolutely.
They got it set up for a lightning fast start too, because I was doing my picks a while ago. Keller Central was picked last in their district, and not that great. Then Granbury. My whole family lives there, and maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just keep my mouth shut. But they're never good in football. Uh, sorry, Pirates. I'm sure there's lots. You have a very beautiful lake there in your city and all. Used to have good girls basketball, but so University probably is going to score about 100 points first 2 weeks, and then they're going to play China Spring, and we'll get like their first real test, right?
Yeah. Uh, so my ride or die team for 2024, I'm going back to the 6-man ranks, and I'm going with the Oglesby Tigers. Uh, because here, first of all, I just like Jim Dixon. I think he's done an incredible job since he got there. He came in 2020. Of course, we know what happened in 2020 and all the hurdles that coaches had to navigate. And right off the bat, he made history. He led them to their first playoff win since 1983. All they've done there since he's been there is win, 10 wins, 9 wins, 12 wins. Last year, they win their first 13 games. They go to state for the first time in history, and they run into a very, very tough Benjamin team was the previous state champion and, handled Oglesby pretty well. It was 82-34. Uh, this year, Oglesby has 4 out of 6 starters back on both sides of the ball. They've got the reigning Super Centex 6-man player of the year and Kyler Fawcett, who ran for 56 touchdowns. By the way, I don't know how often we have 2 6-man player of the years coming back, and Riley Sestala of Abbott won it a couple years ago. He's still
Shustala.
Shustala, sorry.
I've been
Yeah, I always
so
forget
many
that.
times.
Yeah, I forget that Abbott pronunciation. Yeah, we've got him back. We've got Kyler Fawcett back. And truthfully, London Bickham at MCH Methodist Home probably could be a 6-man player of the year. He's that good. So our 6-man ranks are loaded, but it'll be fun to see how Oglesby navigates being the number 1 team in the state and the pressure that kind of comes with that. But I think they're very, very hungry to get back and to win it.
Man, it was kind of crazy to watch that Benjamin Oglesby 6-man championship game last year because Kyler Fawcett was number 1. Benjamin's quarterback was number 1. It was just like one that way, one that way, one that way. It was almost like watching a basketball game where they were getting the ball to one guy and letting him score on both ends. Like the old Larry Bird, Michael Jordan showdown or something.
Yeah, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
There was a
It's
great old you may remember this one, Chad. Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins
Yeah,
in the
that was
playoffs. They
mm-hmm.
both went off. And
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Bird was hitting just crazy shots, and the Hawks were on the bench just like falling over. And a couple of those guys got in trouble because they were like reacting to Bird shots. Anyway, yeah, it should be fun to watch Oglesby. That's my ride or die team. So as we said, DJ, you'll be at Riker tomorrow. That's a great stadium, by the way. They do such a cool job with their paint on the field. I don't know if you've covered a game at JJ Kern Stadium, but it's
it's not by the church, right? Because I used to go to church at St. Louis, and I
it's
don't
right
It
over
remember.
there.
is. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right over
Okay.
there.
Okay.
It's right by the
Yep.
school.
Okay.
And
Just to be
then
sure I'm not going to the wrong place.
yeah, it's over on 25th. Uh, and then China Spring Franklin on Friday night. Chad, you mentioned you'll be at Whitney Mart. Should be good. And I'll be down at Mary Hardin Baylor on Friday, and that's where the Midway Round Rock Westwood game will be. And get this, y'all. This year they have recruited me, since I'm always in the press box anyway, to do the announcing for the goaltenders, the drill team at halftime. So
I guess we really won't be seeing any Midway games.
Well, now I can beg out, a week or whatever, but
have somebody sub it.
Right. Yeah, okay. Yes. But I did tell Millie, I said, how do you want to be? Would you like to be goaltender of the week every week? So anyway.
Like, you just need to give Millie a nickname every week.
Oh, there you go. That'd be fun.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and I told Millie, I said, I'm coming up with my own stuff. I'm going to be like, tonight, the Midway goaltenders will be getting jiggy with it too.
Oh, Lord. Oh, I feel for those goaltenders.
All right. We'll see y'all at the games. Appreciate you. Take care.